Hey everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Hump Day edition of Today in Sports Betting. As is our habit, we're going to take a look first at the NBA and going to bring in my partner in crime here. He is Scott Reichel. What's up, buddy?
Nothing much. Doing pretty well. I had a pretty good day on the NBA card yesterday. Would have been a little bit better had the game gone to overtime, which would have been my nice Twitter 13-1 shot. But they were tied with less than a minute to go. It looked pretty good. I'm still not sure how Jokic ever gets a shot over anybody, but that was a very nice little turnaround, one-handed baby hook, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of the most entertaining scoreless 15 seconds of regulation I've ever seen. I know a lot of people were screaming at the TVs for Denver to pull the ball out and not go for the layup at the end of regulation, which Craig completely missed. Truth is, I actually didn't have a problem with it, but I can go into that in a little bit. What were your thoughts on the situation?
Well, I needed about three overtimes as we had the over here as Utah had played every game but one over the total in the bubble, and we needed.
Well, you mean Denver played every game but one over the total?
Or so, I'm sorry, yeah, Utah played every game but three. Denver was every game but one. Sorry, yeah, and we needed probably three overtimes to get home. So I was disappointed also that it did not go to overtime. So,
I kind of meant about the layup at the end, but that too.
Oh, that was terrible basketball to go for the layup at the end.
I actually disagree. I'm in a very, very small minority, and I accept that. And I'd like to justify my case if I can.
All right, go ahead. You have the floor, counselor.
So a lot of people I know were yelling at the TV saying Denver should pull it out. I get it. Realistically, and hear me out here, if Denver was in the bonus, I would have agreed to pull the ball out because Murray's roughly, high 80s, low 90% free throw shooter, give or take. That makes sense. The issue that you have is that Denver was not in the bonus, which means that if they would have gotten fouled, then they would have had to take the ball out from the side on an inbound pass, probably over Gobert. Not exactly an ideal situation, in my opinion, in comparison to a 4-on-1 fast break layup where Utah has no timeouts. If you make the layup, you're up 4 with 5 seconds to go and you win the game automatically. Whereas if you take the foul, then you have to inbound the ball again, make both free throws with 11 seconds left, give or take. So I was actually fine with the move. The issue is that I think Craig should probably leave the bubble for missing a wide open layup. But I understood the logic. Now, of course, a lot of people will tell you have to take that out. I think if you're in the bonus, you take that out because you get 2 free throws. But the fact that they were required to do another inbound over a former defensive player of the year, potentially blocking the inbound pass, a lot could go wrong there. I was fine with taking the 4-on-1 break. Craig just completely butchered the layup.
Okay.
That's my take. You can disagree with it. I think if they were in the bonus, I would agree with you that they should have taken it out. But the fact that you had to inbound it from the side, I was okay with it. I think the issue that a lot of people had was if I wanted one person to take the layup, I wanted Murray to take it. Also, Craig's like 6'5", he should probably dunk the ball. But, Mike Conley, I guess, who's, 6'2"? Yeah, it's a hell of a contest by Conley. Not actually. Craig just missed a wide-open layup. So if he makes the layup, you're up 4 with 5 seconds to go, and this isn't a conversation. But the fact that he missed, a lot of people are saying because he missed, how could you do this? This is complete, this is lunacy. And my argument would be, if he made this layup, we wouldn't be talking about it. And an NBA player should make a wide-open layup roughly, 95, 98% of the time.
Yeah, about the same as being able to inbound the ball.
It's inbound the ball and make both free throws. If he misses one, that's a 3-point game.
But you're running clock the whole time you're waiting. You're picking up that other foul.
I don't know how much clock you're running when you have people behind you who are just going to foul you, and then you have to inbound it immediately and get fouled. So you're looking at roughly 5 seconds to wide open layup, or roughly 11 seconds with 2 free throws. Assuming you make both and have to stop Utah coming down the floor, I was okay with it. But I can understand why people weren't. But I think them not being in the bonus definitely played a huge factor into that. Not for Murray at the time, just for my logic on why I thought it was okay. At no point did I think Murray factored in that they weren't in the bonus. So I think that might be an issue as well. But I think at the time it was okay. Craig just decided to forget how to play basketball for about 5 seconds, give or take. But
yeah,
or Denver won, and came down to it thrilling. I thought it was kind of ironic that Mike Conley, the winner of the Quarantine Horse Championship, couldn't get that horse shot to go down at the end of regulation with the leaning in three-pointer. Rolls in and out, very close, but I found that kind of amusing when I remembered, oh, yeah, Mike Conley won the horse competition, but he couldn't make the one-legged, leaning in, diving three-pointer at the end of regulation. I just found that funny.
Okay.
But,
Good enough.
oh, well.
What do you got for tonight?
As far as I know, we got 2 basketball games, and we got some baseball as well. I know that we had a lot of underdogs. We'll get into that in the baseball show. And the Islanders made a thrilling comeback just to lose in overtime. So
Second time,
but I give them props. I thought the Flyers would win yesterday. I didn't think the Islanders would win in 5. But yeah, the first very ugly goal by Bailey, and I'm like, maybe there's a shot. Then Philly scores 3 straight, and then Barzell gets injured, and I'm like, oh, we're screwed. And then we score 2 goals in about a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, do we have a shot here? And then Nelson misses the breakaway in overtime, and I'm like, all right, this might not end well. But whatever. NBA was great yesterday. The Toronto Celtics game was great with the exception of the flopping going on between Smart and Lowry, which was basically an Olympic diving competition. And I'd give them both roughly 9.3s. I thought they did a pretty good job on the flopping. It was painful to watch with the flopping, especially Smart on that Siakam bump situation where he wasn't even touching it was just ridiculous. But
Yeah.
It was a good game. Props to the Celtics. Tatum took over, and Kemba, after a really awful three quarters, took over the fourth. But the totals were really off yesterday. They were roughly 20 points minimum off. And I'm curious if the markets have fully adjusted to that yet. And I'm not sure if they have.
Doesn't look like it as of yet. The first one is that Miami-Milwaukee game tonight. This game, I think, opened at 5.5. Milwaukee's now 5-point favorite. 221 is the total there, Scott, and it is straight up, no juice on the total. A little bit of juice to the -5 on Milwaukee. Your thoughts here?
For this one, I have a play today on this matchup, so check out that video, winnersandwiners.com, if you have not done that before. It should be the video right before this one. But looking at the actual spread, which I'll go into, I like Miami. And I think that even though Milwaukee, you've seen them before against the Celtics last year, for example, they lost game 1. People thought, like Paul Pierce, that, oh, it's over. Celtics are going to win. And then Milwaukee just destroyed them in 4 straight games, and they turned it around. I'm not immediately going to write off the team that had one of the best records in the league and most likely the MVP. I'm not going to write them off. Having said that, I said going into the series, I thought that Miami was a terrible matchup for Milwaukee.
Right.
And nothing's been shown to me that Milwaukee supporting cast can step up in an important situation. And now, if you want to talk about game 1, yes, Giannis struggled a lot, which didn't surprise me. Assuming Giannis goes for 30, let's say that after going for 19 in game 1, he goes for 30, right? Do you think Middleton's going for 28 again?
Yeah, that's the question.
Well, that's one of the questions. Does Middleton go for 28 again? I don't think so. I think he'll probably go for 20, be a little bit more inefficient. And the shocker, the outlier extreme, was Brook Lopez, who went 8 for 10 from the floor for 24 points.
Yeah, that's
going to happen again? No.
Right. And, the other thing is, I don't know how you just assume Giannis goes for 30. Okay, maybe he does. But, I thought Adebayo did a nice job on him. I don't know how.
No, he did. I'm just stating a fact that even if a lot of people – I'm talking about for people taking Milwaukee.
Right.
The logic is, Giannis will bounce back. And my question is, even if Giannis bounces back, right, let's say he goes for 30, which is 11 more points than he had in game 1, right? Let's say Middleton goes for 20 instead of 28. And let's say that Lopez goes for
12
to 14. Yeah. So, yeah, Giannis gains 11 points. Middleton loses 8. Lopez loses 12. Congratulations, you lost 9 points.
Right.
And Milwaukee only scored 104 in game 1 anyway. So I don't think Milwaukee's offense, especially with that supporting cast, really works. You had Middleton and Lopez combined for 52, which nobody saw coming, and they still only scored 104 points. So I don't trust this offense at all. And Miami's kind of the same case where they did score 115, which was impressive. Dragic did whatever he wanted in the first half. He had 27 points. He was great. And Butler took over the game. But right. Milwaukee is still a top 3 defensive team in the league, and I have to assume they're going to make some adjustments defensively. The issues that I have is that I don't think Milwaukee offensively is deep enough to match Miami's 3-point shooting, which is why I think that Miami has a serious shot to win game 2. Would it shock me if Milwaukee wins game 2? Of course not, because they need this game. They can't go down 2-0, etc. But I made the same argument about Toronto yesterday. They kept it a lot closer, but the Celtics are just the better overall, more talented offensive team, and they won. And I think you'd make the same argument about Miami. So if I had to lean anywhere, I think Miami has a shot to win the game again.
Yeah, agreed. And, Miami has done a great job against Milwaukee all season long, and they've shown that they're able to take care of business. The Adebayo is able to at least limit Giannis, and that's really all you can do. It's the classic. You can't contain him. You can only hope to slow him down, and that's exactly right. So,
Do you have any thoughts on Giannis's yips at the free throw line? I don't know if it's going to carry over, but 4 for 12. Giannis has been one of those players. I've noticed it with a couple of guys. I noticed it with Luka Doncic randomly, where we'll just go through stretches where he misses like 7 free throws in a row, and I'm not really sure why. But Giannis had this issue his entire career. He's just not a good free throw shooter, and you have to wonder if mentally that'll play a factor. Now, do I think he's going to stop going to the rim? No, because he can't really shoot from the outside, which is also a huge problem because I don't want to say he's a limited offensive player, but needless to say, he's not exactly great at stretching the floor and making people guard him from the outside, which is an issue because Miami's going to pack in the paint, which is why Milwaukee's offense struggled in game 1, but with the exception of the 40-point first quarter. But I think it might carry over. The issue you have with Giannis is, let's just say Miami ends up fouling Giannis. They decide no layups. We're going to force him to shoot free throws. Giannis gets 15 free throws.
right.
How many do you think he's going to make? 8?
Okay. 8 or 9 statistically.
That's what I'm saying. You're wasting a lot of points at the foul line.
True.
So I think that could play a factor, especially in the fourth quarter where these possessions are so huge, both teams went stagnant, and yet anytime you foul your best player, the other team's best player, they might make half the free throws. And I think that's a massive concern for Milwaukee, especially if they're trying to ice the game late. Do you really trust Giannis with the ball to hit some icing free throws? I don't.
Yeah, this is a guy that just shot 55.8% from the line all season long.
So. Correct. So you're looking at a situation where let's say Milwaukee's up 6 with 30 seconds to go. Giannis is Milwaukee's best player. Do you trust him to have the ball in his hands? It's not as bad as Dwight Howard on Orlando, where you have to take him off the floor, but I think that's a factor. And I think Miami could have a backdoor cover if Milwaukee can't shoot free throws late in the game.
Agreed. I totally. I like that 5 points there. I think that's. I think they
have a shot on the money line again, but I think it's a safer play once again for the +5.
Yeah, agreed. All right. What about the other one here? Taking a look at Game 7 there, the Rockets and the Thunder. Once again, Rockets are a 5.5-point favorite in this one. Been a crazy series to try to handicap. You got any thoughts on this one?
Well, I know this total has collapsed on its head. It's gone from roughly 221 to 216.5. Yeah. I was kind of hoping to see that line movement in some of the other games in previous days because some of the line movement was relatively late, which was kind of annoying, and this one, money just poured in on the under. I think it makes sense. Game 6 had roughly 204 points, and you saw in the 2 games yesterday with the one Game 7 yesterday, it was an absolute rock fest. So it wouldn't surprise me to see this game finish in the low 200s. I think this total once again is
a little tight there in Game 7, weren't they?
Yeah, it was a little bit tight. I know Gobert got punched in the face by I believe it was by Plumlee on that alley-oop dunk with roughly 40 seconds to go. He grabbed his face, and the referee looked at him like, "No, you're not bleeding. You're good to go." I'm like, yeah, he kind of got killed, but yeah, okay, that works too. But either or, I expect that to carry over into this game. Both teams have been very stagnant offensively, particularly in the fourth quarters, where Oklahoma City goes pretty much 5 out, and they just go isolation and pray Chris Paul hits a fadeaway three-pointer, where Houston does the same exact thing, but they pray that James Harden hits a fadeaway three-pointer. Right. So you're going to see a lot of long shot clock possessions in the fourth quarter where both teams are just going to pretty much go ISO like they're an and one street ball and just hope that they make a step-back three-pointer, which should bode well for the under. As for the game itself, I'm not surprised money's coming in on Houston. Money's always coming on Houston the entire series. I still like Oklahoma City. I said going into the series, I thought they were going to win. I flip-flopped roughly 5 times since the start of the series. But at the end of the day, if you had to talk about 2 superstars you would not want in a Game 7, I think that Harden and Westbrook are probably on that short list. And I used to be a huge Westbrook guy, and I acknowledge that. But he's not exactly the kind of guy, especially after his Game 6 performance, where I want the ball in his hands in the final 2 minutes. I don't.
Just dreadful.
And I feel the same way about Harden, where Harden his entire career has been a pretty underwhelming, vanishing job in elimination games. And that's been his MO. You've seen it against Golden State throughout his career. I know that some of it wasn't his fault because Chris Paul got injured, but he didn't exactly do a great job last year where Clay was injured, Durant was injured. They had a shot to force Game 7 and they ended up losing at home because Curry went off and Harden was non-existent the entire fourth quarter. You've had multiple series in the past, particularly the Game 6 against San Antonio, which will be the game I always remember Harden 4, where he had 10 points, 7 turnovers, and they ended up going home as they lost by 35 and then went to a strip club right after. That's what I'll remember Harden for. But there's a chance for him to change the narrative in the short term. Do I think it's going to matter? No. But in reality, I trust Chris Paul a lot more in the late minutes of the fourth quarter than I trust James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So for that reason, I'm going to take Oklahoma City. I don't think they're going to win. I have a slight sprinkle on the money line, but that's mostly because of the fact that I had plus 750 on them to win the series after they were down 3-2. I already hedged that, so I'm looking pretty good for automatic profit there. But if I really had to lean anywhere, I trust in what I've seen in the past. And in the past, I've seen D'Antoni, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden collapse in big games. And for that reason, I'm going to lean to the Thunder, and I'll lean to the under as well.
I think that's solid. I'm with you on both of those picks, and I think you've summed up the case perfectly. This is a team that doesn't have the personnel, that hasn't played well in Game 7s in the past, big games. And for me, the big factor is how bad Westbrook has looked, and they're still going to they're still going to give him his minutes. They're not going to take him out.
He did announce he's on a minute restriction. I don't know what that means.
Right.
The Game 7, and even if Westbrook has been terrible, which he has been, he's worst case scenario your third best player. Regardless, he's still your second best player, but he made the argument that.
Oh, I totally disagree.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I mean, who's been the second best player? Jeff Green. Like Jeff Green's kind of had a ridiculous series and nobody's talking about it. But the issue you have with the Houston and why people are still cursing out Westbrook, but I can't really fully blame them entirely, is the fact that who does Houston have that can actually create something off the dribble? You have 1.5 guys because Eric Gordon occasionally takes it to the rim.
Right.
You don't have anybody who can actually dribble to the hoop.
No, this is a team that's spoiled with Harden and
you have Harden and nobody else. It's just a matter of if you double team Harden and Houston. If I told you Houston could not take a 3-pointer for one possession for some reason, who's taking it to the hoop? I have no idea. Besides Westbrook, who might chuck up a really awful shot or he might turn the ball over, so he's flawed.
Well, and Harden could certainly drive. Yeah.
Like, he brings some value from a ball handling perspective. I can't say the same about anybody else on the roster.
You're right. This is a team that's built around Harden, and that's and nothing else, especially when they've decided to go small. So
yeah. All right. To win anywhere, I think that this is disrespectful to the Thunder. I think the fact that you're in a 7-game series, Game 7, and there's no home court advantage, I think laying 5.5 or just getting 5.5 is disrespectful because you wouldn't have gone to 7 games on a neutral and yet be 6-point underdogs for Game 7 with no injuries at all, unless there was some type of fallacy going on that Houston's better than they've been letting off.
Agreed.
As far as I know right now, I'm going to trust the 6-game sample size that I've seen, which is that Houston is an inconsistent basketball team that is flawed offensively and is undersized and gets out-rebounded and never getting to play. And that is a massive issue for me. And I think even if Houston wins, I think this game's going to be a nail-biter. I mean, I mentioned overtime yesterday at 13-1 on the Denver game. I'm not going to play it for this one because the spread's 6.5. But it wouldn't surprise me if this game is a one-possession game with 20 seconds left. And I think everybody would not be surprised by that.
Not a bit.
So I think the spread itself is ridiculous. I think the total is also coming down correctly. I think that this game should finish in the 200s. But the spread is just massively disrespectful.
Very good. I think you and I are pretty much agreed on both of these games today.
Yeah. I know that I was also considering some player props. I was torn on Westbrook. I thought about maybe taking the under on his points because I'm curious if he is going to be extremely conservative.
Right.
He knows that he blew Game 6, if that'll stick with him mentally. And then I remember this is Russell Westbrook. He's programmed to shoot 40 times a game if he can. So I decided not to do that. But as far as I know, there haven't been any over-under turnover props, so that's been upsetting because I would have taken the over on both Harden and Westbrook. But that was one thing that I was torn about, where I thought about taking an under in Westbrook or fading some player props, but I know that mentally he's wired to shoot the ball as much as possible.
Right.
And I'm concerned that even if he's been off, which he has been,
could get hot.
I think he's going to suddenly switch gears and become become a different person in comparison to the guy he's been since he came into the league. And the answer is no. I think he's going to stay as the guy who won in the MVP award and shoot as many times as he possibly can. And whether he's airballing mid-range shots or, turning the ball over, He might single-handedly sabotage Houston in this Game 7, but I don't expect him to reinvent the wheel.
No, agreed.
So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the basketball game, and you agree. Yeah, anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. Ready for some basketball. Should be fun.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, man. That's very good. Thanks for sharing your thoughts here. And as always, thanks everybody out there for tuning in. Don't forget to check out winnersandwhiners.com for deep dives into not just these games, but every game, every day. We appreciate you stopping by, listening to Today in Sports Betting. Hey, if you're not doing anything, just click on the next video and check out our MLB thoughts. Because Scott and I, we do it every day on Today in Sports Betting. You guys take care. Good luck on all of your plays today. And, appreciate you stopping by. Tell your friends, all right? And we'll be here tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.